Hey everyone, this video is going to be a quick review and overview of the new Audja Beta 2 release. It's not going to be a full detailed tutorial or anything like that, just a quick look at what's new, what changed, and some of the improvements in this version. First thing I want to show is AMS Mode, and honestly, this is a really strong feature, because if you're mainly focused on coloring, and you don't really want all the panels and tools around the screen, you can just switch to AMS mode and paint comfortably in a much cleaner workspace. It gives you a calmer environment, fewer distractions, and only the simple tools you actually need for coloring. Now let's try it together. First, open Audja and import your model. After that, click the AMS button at the top, and it'll switch straight into AMS mode. Then select your model and click Color Painter. You'll notice that all the painting options and brush tools from the main panel are still here, but in a much simpler and cleaner layout. So you get the same painting power, just in a more focused workspace that's easier to use. The second feature is background tasks with progress. Basically, this means that when Audja is doing a heavy operation, the task now runs in the background instead of freezing the whole interface. So while the software is processing, the UI stays responsive, and you can actually see the progress of what's happening. This also helps the processing feel smoother and faster, because the heavy work is separated from the main interface, instead of locking everything up. Let's test this now by opening a pretty heavy 3MF file, around 3 million faces, as you can see down here. This is the kind of file that used to be much harder to handle, especially when running heavy operations on it. And as you can see, the FPS and camera movement are almost smooth now. Pretty much no lag, no frame drops, or at least way less than before. Now let's try separate by color and see how it works. Keep in mind, this model has around 1.7 million faces, so the processing might take a little longer than usual. If this was, say, a 500,000 face model, it would finish much faster. While it's processing, you'll see the progress bar down here showing all the background tasks, and if you want, you can cancel the operation at any time. The third feature is project cache and heavy task improvements. Audja now handles heavy tasks like large imports, exports, separating, and mesh processing in a smoother way, using better caching and background processing. This helps reduce UI freezes, especially with heavy models. It also clears the cache after each session, so temporary files don't keep building up. By default, Audja uses around 8 GB of cache space on the C drive, and you can change that anytime from the Preferences panel. The fourth feature is Customizable Workspace. Now users can customize Audja much more than before. The colors, the interface style, the panel layout, and the way the workspace feels overall. Let's test it real quick. Go to File, then open Preferences, and from there, go to Appearance. Here you'll find all the settings you can control and customize. And if you change something and don't like the result, no problem. You can just click Reset All, then hit Save, and everything will go back to the default look. The fifth feature is an improvement to separate by color, especially in socket mode. Now, before you apply the cut, you can actually preview the part that will be separated. The socket method now has a live preview, so you can see the socket depth in real time and adjust it before applying anything. You can also press space to enable or disable the preview whenever you want, and as you can see here, there's also a gizmo that lets you move the taper in the direction you want, so you have much more control over how the socket is created. Once everything looks right, you just click Apply, and Audja will separate the part and create the socket based on your settings. The sixth feature is Mother Mold Studio. In this version, we improved the way the mold generation works. The preview is now much faster and smoother than before, so you can test and adjust the mold without waiting as much. We also improved the final shape of the generated mold. The topology is cleaner and smoother now, and the mold should be easier to remove after printing in real life. And after the mold is generated, you can still split it into multiple parts however you want, because the generated mold comes out as a solid, clean piece. The seventh feature is crash recovery support. Now, if Audja detects that the previous session ended with a crash, the next time you open the software, it can show a support form automatically. The nice thing is that the crash details are already attached, so the user doesn't have to search for logs or explain everything from scratch. You can also add a short note about what you were doing before the crash happened. This makes bug reports much easier to send, and much more useful for us when we're trying to find and fix the issue. Now let's move to the fixed and improved section. This part is about the important issues from the previous beta, things that were already in Audja but had some problems, bugs, or rough behavior. In Beta 2, a lot of these areas were fixed, cleaned up, and improved to make the software more stable and easier to use. The first fix is about saving projects. In the previous beta, saving could sometimes fail, even though Audja still showed a success message. In some cases, instead of creating a proper .audja project file, it would only leave a .te .emp file. Now this has been fixed. Manual saving and auto-saving should now correctly create valid .audja project files. The second fix is the startup crash issue. Some users had a problem where Audja would crash when opening the software, and they had to reopen it again. This startup issue has now been fixed, so launching the software should be more stable than before. The third issue was about opening .audja project files directly. Before, if you launched Audja by double-clicking a project file, sometimes the font or interface style wouldn't load correctly. And the fourth issue was about international file names. Before, if a file had a name in another language, Audja could crash or fail during import. Now this has been fixed. Audja can handle international file names much better, so users don't need to rename their models before importing them. Fifth issue was about brush painting. Before, the brush could sometimes pass through the model and paint the backside, even when you only wanted to paint the visible surface. Now this has been improved. The brush respects the visible/front surface better, so accidental painting on hidden faces should happen much less. The sixth issue was the bucket tool performance. It's much faster now, especially on normal and medium heavy meshes. Very heavy meshes, around 900,000 triangles or more, can still take some time, but overall the response should be much better. The next issue was separate by color, smooth method. Before, separated parts could come out with jagged edges. Now the smooth method creates cleaner separation edges, so the parts are easier to inspect, print, and assemble. The next improvement is viewport navigation. Now you don't need to hold Alt plus left click for basic movement anymore. Mouse navigation is simpler now, so rotating, zooming, and moving around the scene should feel more natural and easier to use. And the last thing is large mesh optimization. Audja now handles very large meshes much better. Before, files around 5 to 10 million faces could cause heavy viewport lag and make the workflow really difficult. Now, large meshes should feel much smoother in the viewport, and heavy operations are more capable of handling huge geometry. And finally, thank you. This update happened because of the Audja community. Every bug report, crash note, project test, screenshot, and honest piece of feedback helps make Audja better and stronger. So thank you for supporting us, testing the beta, and pushing the software forward with real workflows. This kind of support helps us improve faster, fix the right problems, and keep building a better tool for everyone. Download the newest beta, try the improvements on your own models, and keep sending us feedback. You can also share your tests, bugs, prints, and suggestions in the Facebook group, on Reddit, or on Instagram. We are listening.